Welcome to the show about Mackatomics. Of course, we've heard about the story of the tortoise and the hare. And for the lack of better words, or basically to make the long story short, the tortoise beat the hare. Now, of course, there are a lot of different ways of telling the story. But basically, in a nutshell, the hare just started to lollygag, and because it was faster than the tortoise. It thought it would always have a head start, lounge around, but at the end of the day, when it was all said and done, steadiness wins the race, and somehow the tortoise ended up out front, in front of the hare, and was able to win. And that made the hare very upset, because it thought because it had all this speed, it would always be ahead of the tortoise. It would always be ahead of the tortoise, and it would always be able to, or at least catch up with the tortoise. That's what the hare thought. Now, there's another version of this story that I felt applied to this episode, this show about Mackatomics. Now, this new story that I've heard about was, well, it wasn't that the tortoise actually got ahead of the hare. What happened was the tortoise had other tortoises. Basically, he had other brothers that he could rely on. So there were other tortoises at different checkpoints, because like in a lot of different cross-country races, because I used to run cross-country myself, there are different checkpoints that basically tell you how far on the course you've ran. They have different mile markers and things like that. So that's what that's like. So at those different checkpoints or mile markers, there would be another tortoise there that would basically make it seem like the tortoise was ahead of the hare. And so that was how the tortoise ended up winning the race. Now, some people would say, well, that tortoise cheated. But no, I think in that particular version I just told about that story of the tortoise and the hare, the tortoise just basically realized that it had to make something happen despite the odds that were against it. So now here at my channel, since I've been talking more on this idea of white pill and how the real essence of what macking is basically what white pill is, this ties right in this second version of the tortoise and the hare story, because the tortoise had to make something happen. It had to mack something happen. Yes. Sometimes instead of making it happen, you gotta mack it happen. Don't make it happen, mack it happen. So that's in essence what the tortoise did, despite the odds that were against it. Even if it felt it didn't have the ability of its own to make things happen, it knew how to rely on other elements or other individuals. In the case of what I'm speaking about, maybe yourself who's listening to this video, you may have to know about different elements if you don't have other people in your corner to help you get through a lot of things despite the odds that are against you. Especially in regards to macking, you're going to need a lot of meditation, a lot of balance in your mind to know how to get through these spiritual side of things, these esoterics. But see, even with that said, you can get through the esoterics of somebody's mind, having them to have a change of heart. So there you go. And that increases everything in regards to your probability, despite the odds that are against you, that the hare will always be out front. Sometimes you don't have to be out in front of the hare. You could just find ways to just basically outsmart the hare if you can't necessarily outbeat the hare. A lot of times in life, you don't have to beat things, if you will. You just have to outsmart it. You have to find a way to be one step ahead of the game. Signing out.